Here you go. So for those of you that are joining this morning, I am so happy that you are here. We have a super special Dr. Jaime Show presentation today. We have former NASA astronaut Jon Mcbride sitting right next to me. I would be lying if I told you that the butterflies weren't flapping, and I think that he hears them. But I'm going to go ahead and read you verbatim this bio, and this is his short bio, and it's one page, because this man has done so many amazing things.
Lucky guy.
Yeah, lucky. You've worked for it. You have worked the heck. I've read this, and he has worked super hard. So I'm going to go ahead and read to you a little bit about Jon Mcbride today, who you can follow on Twitter at Astro Mcbride. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Astronaut Jon Mcbride's goal was to go to space even as a young boy. He followed in the path of his heroes like Neil Armstrong and became a naval aviator. Mcbride received flight training in Pensacola, Florida, where he got his wings in 1966. He attended the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, earning an aeronautical engineering degree in 1971. In 1978, he was selected by NASA in the first class of Space Shuttle astronauts. Overall, he has logged more than 8,800 hours of flight time. I think I've been on United Airlines like 6 times, so I probably logged 6 hours. During his time with the Navy, Mcbride flew various military and civilian aircraft. He spent time in Southeast Asia, where he flew 64 combat missions during the Vietnam conflict. Beginning his career with NASA, he served as a capsule communicator for mission control and was a lead chase pilot for the first flight of Columbia. On October 5, 1984, Mcbride launched with STS-41G Challenger for an 8-day mission. He was a member of the first crew of 7. While in orbit, they deployed the Earth Radiation Budget Satellite, am I saying that right? And performed scientific observations with the OSTA 3 palette and large format camera. During their mission, Mcbride also filmed about half of the IMAX movie, The Dream is Alive, which aired at Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex for over 25 years. Mcbride served as NASA's Assistant Administrator for Congressional Relations in 87 to 89. He was scheduled to command the crew of STS-35 Columbia, but the flight delayed in the wake of the Challenger disaster, which we might touch base on shortly today. Mcbride retired from NASA and the Navy in May of '89 and pursued a career in business. Today he works with Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex as a member of the Astronaut Encounter team. In addition to being a liaison between the visiting astronauts and the visitor complex, he also gives motivational lectures and presentations, and his favorite show ever is the Dr. Jaime Show. It says it in here. I didn't make it up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Took long enough to read that.
I know.
And that's the short
And
bio.
that's the short bio. I asked when I came in, can I get something a little shorter? And she comes with a page. So we could have spent the whole time reading your
Wow.
bio. Thank you.
Well, when you live as long as I have, it gets longer.
It gets longer and longer. Wow, I'm so honored to be sitting here with you. Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I told him I got the memo, so I dressed very similar. I guess before we begin, one of the things that we do on the Dr. Jaime Show is we have you tell the viewers something unique or interesting about you that very few or no people know.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, as many people as I've talked to in my life, it'd be hard to think of something that nobody's ever heard. I think maybe one of the things that people don't realize about me is how much I love animals, maybe.
Okay.
I grew up in the country in West Virginia, and we had animals, and I've had dogs and cats all my life that have become members of my family. So the animals are very special to me.
Any one in particular that you absolutely adore?
Well, I had a wolf dog. She was half wolf and half husky, she lived to be almost 20 years old. Tori Ann was her name, and she was one of the sweetest animals, like a human being. It's like having a human being.
For the viewers, they know me, it's a mammal. It's a dolphin. I love the dolphins. We go boating, we have a
I
pontoon.
go back into Key West days when I was early joining the Navy, and I was one of the first people that ever dove with dolphins in the Keys.
That needs to be highlighted in this bio.
I remember he had two porcupine.
Porcupine? I don't
He
know.
lived in this little channel. He had the screened off at one end, and he took care of them, swam with them. He allowed me to do it. He was the first. I may have been the second human being that ever. Dal and Sue were the names of the porcupine.
Wow, interesting.
This was in the 60s in the Keys.
He wrote a book about it?
He did.
He did. Okay, awesome. That is amazing.
Yeah,
I love
so
it.
nobody knows that.
There you go. See, there we go. There we go. Okay, so now I turn to you and want you to tell the viewers a little bit about who you are. So I know I read your bio, but tell us a little bit about you, what you've done in your career.
I know there were several highlights in my career. Obviously, I'm very proud to be born and raised in West Virginia. I'm a mountaineer, red and or gold and blue through and through, as we say, and I'm very proud of my heritage. I grew up in a close-knit community with a very strong bond in our family, and so I'm going to go back to my roots and give a lot of tribute to that, to whatever I have gotten to do in the rest of my life. So I'll go back to those early days. My grandfather was a Methodist minister. One of the strongest role models in my life. So I've got to talk about West Virginia. The highlights are obviously my Navy career. I was a Navy fighter pilot, carrier pilot, 600 carrier landings, which is and I like to brag about my landings match my takeoffs, and that's a good thing when you're a Navy pilot.
I love it. My husband's so excited in the back.
I guess the next best thing was being in that very first class of Space Shuttle astronauts, everybody that came before us were the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo guys, and being in the first class, not only did we have the first women, the first African Americans, first Japanese American, first West Virginia, it really was a first 6 women, Sally Ride and I flew together in space. So it was really a unique group of people, but being in that first class, I got to meet all those idols and heroes of mine that I grew up with watching. When I was a young man, West Virginia, every young man in America wanted to be an astronaut because those were the days of Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard and John Glenn and Neil Armstrong. And so when I got in that first class, one of the beautiful parts of our training for the first couple of years is that every crew that flew before us in Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo would come and debrief us on their flights. So if we ever ran into anything like that in our missions, we would better understand how to handle it. So consequently, I got to meet everybody that came before me, and being in the first class of Space Shuttle folks, I got to meet everybody that came after me, including up to today. I haven't met the new 12 that we just selected a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we just talked about that. It's amazing.
But I know that 8 that came before and everybody that came before them. And one of the unique periods in my life, I was president of all the astronauts and cosmonauts for 3 years.
Wow.
So the posters around the office here where we get together different countries.
Yeah, viewers, if you can see around us all these amazing...
This 2 months we're going to be in France for our 30th annual reunion. So astronauts and cosmonauts have been meeting. We started meeting 6 years before the actual Iron Curtain came down in Russia in 1991. We had our first meeting in 1985. So even though our governments occasionally bump heads, the cosmonauts and astronauts have always been able to get along together.
That's amazing. I love it. Okay. All right. So now you know a little bit about this man, where he came from, and now we're going to get into some of the questions that I have for him, and then we have a slew of questions. I will try. I will try. We are going to ask how the number 1 and number 2. We're going to ask them. Okay. So the mission. Tell us about the mission that you specifically had. Tell us about it in general.
The Space Shuttle was designed to do many, many things. It's used to study the universe up above us. It's used to do medical research and scientific research in laboratories. And the latter portion, probably 90% of the flights were dedicated to building our International Space Station. I was on a mission that studied the Earth down below. We had an Earth radiation budget satellite you talked about earlier, which we deployed, which measures the sun's, what we're receiving from the sun, what's being reflected, and gives the budget of the Earth's radiation all around the Earth. And it helps climatologists and meteorologists and oceanographers and agriculturalists with their weather forecasting capability for long ranges. And I had an Earth-penetrating radar that I could see about 10 feet below the surface of the Earth. And I uncovered a city in Saudi Arabia. And I didn't uncover it, I discovered it, rediscovered it for them. They've been searching for it for 2,000 years, and we found it for them in the middle of the desert. And I gave them the lat long. They went out and excavated with the National Geo crew, and it's now a visitor center. Saudi Arabia.
Can
We
you look
studied
for
the
gold?
oceans.
Because can we take that tool and look for gold?
We studied the oceans, and the ocean found Kathy Sullivan was an oceanographer on my flight. They discovered what we call spiral eddies. People had kind of known about these, but until you see them from space, you don't realize the actual motions of the ocean are not just currents, but they actually spiral like hurricanes. In some occasions, it gets to be 30 or 40 knots in a circle, which led people to believe that maybe that was some of the cause of a lot of losses of ships and things in the Bermuda Triangle, because there's a tremendous spiral eddy all around those islands. It could move ships 10 or 20 miles, and they not know it. So we were an Earth observation mission. I was
So what is their theory? Like, it moves the ship and the ship sinks, or it
ship
just...
thinks it's going east or west, but when it gets into this 10 or 20 knot circling current, it could be moved 10 miles to the north and not realize it.
Wow.
And an island or something. So we learned a lot. We started a deeper study into spiral eddies, we call them, that we kind of pinpointed for them from space.
Wow, interesting.
There's a huge one in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea that we saw that nobody realized. That we could see a ship's weight going up to it, and it being moved about 10 miles as it went through it and came out the other side.
Wow. So what do you do when you see these things? So you report them, and then, I mean, is it still there? Are these...
Well, they're still there, but we have a better idea of where they are now. We can tell
ships that go around
that they are there and where they are and how intense the ocean currents are.
Wow, that is so interesting.
There's been all kinds of things like that that we've discovered about the Earth and our universe, and deep into space with the Hubble telescope. The Hubble's found other solar systems out there with other Earths that look just like us.
That's amazing. So I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard like when we see a picture, and Wes, I think you explained this to me, like when we see a picture of something and we get it back, we're seeing it like years and years, or like years have passed, right?
Billions.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the image we might be seeing might not even be there. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. Okay, so on your mission, we have to know, were you ever scared? Right before, during, when you were there?
I can honestly say I was never scared. I felt more comfortable on the space shuttle with my crew during launch and orbit activities and back to land. And if you can land an aircraft carrier or an airplane on an aircraft carrier at night, and wind and rain or pitching and rolling decks, that's scared. But number one, we all live and train together for at least 2 years. We know each other inside and out. I know what everybody's doing. They know what I'm doing. We always are backing each other up or watching for problems. And you feel by the time that you go through a 2-year training process with 6 other highly talented people that you can damn near conquer the world.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of attitude and you lift off with, and you feel like if something happens, we're ready to take care of it. Fortunately for our flight, very minimal problems, and accomplished everything we set out to do, and no real glitches, we call them, so it was a very successful flight.
Excellent, excellent. So no fear in this man going up to space. I
I
have
tell
fear
people I get
sitting
more
here.
fearful driving on I-95.
Right. I-4, yeah. Yeah, I-4. It is, I am a little scared driving on I-4, I'll be honest. And we have to take that home today, so. Okay, so going up to space, can you eat before you go?
You can. I suggest you don't. I ate a fighter pilot breakfast that morning, all the stuff. I was sorry about 2 hours later because got into space and I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. Fortunately, it went the right way. But, adjusting to zero gravity takes a day or so, so I would suggest to the youngsters, don't eat anything before you launch. You're probably not going to be hungry for a day or so when you get there until the body adjusts to it.
Okay. All right, so don't eat. If you plan on going to space, tip from former astronaut Jon Mcbride, do not eat
immediately before
lunch. Okay, all right, let's see what else I have here. Okay, all right, so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but some people don't understand, how can going to space do anything for us down here? Like, what's the benefits?
Wow, I could talk for hours about that. There's a fact that people throw out occasionally that there's been 40,000 patented technologies that have been developed by NASA over the last 40, 50 years that affect quality of life for everybody here on Earth, and it's just going to continue into the future. Almost weekly or daily, there's something that comes out of our research that improves the quality or the wellness of people here on Earth. And examples, I mean, how many people out there know about joints, artificial joints in your body? That's all space technology for robotics. How many people have had these little things go up in your heart, little cameras, and then look inside your heart? That's all space technology. All the pharmaceuticals, the magical stuff that have been developed over the last 10 or 20 years, a lot of that came from space activity. How do you put a cost on the millions of lives that have been saved by weather satellite technology? That's just a space adaptation. How many folks out there have cell phones and up-to-date computers and all those things? GPS.
Oh, that thing. That's right.
Yeah, that thing. I remember my last training session in the space shuttle before we were going to go fly back in the early 80s, and I was climbing down the ladder to leave the simulator, and I looked up and there was a brand new switch on the wall that I hadn't seen before. I knew all 1,500 of the other ones. But this little switch said GPS. And I got down to the bottom of the ladder and I asked my instructor, "What is a GPS?" I'd never heard it. He said, "You'll find out." So everybody's lives are touched by GPS today. They know, within a foot or two where you are all the time now. And I can only, before we go to Mars, people say, why in the heck do we want to spend all that money? We got to develop hundreds, if not thousands, of other new technologies to pull that thing off. And one of the things we have to do is to be able to recycle and reuse everything we lift off with. It's called a closed loop ecological system. You can't have waste. We're going to send 3 or 4 people to the moon, which is at least a 2-year voyage, probably 3. You can't take a spacecraft full of fresh food and water for that crew for 2 or 3 years. Wow. So the only answer is to recycle and reuse everything, which we're doing now on the space station. Everything. And we have to do that, and we have to improve our communications capabilities, our ability to convert Martian material into things we can use, much like the Martian movie, which was pretty good. We have to develop ways to transform Martian elements into things that we can use to live there and also get us back to Earth. We can't take enough fuel in our spacecraft to get us there and back. So once we get there, we gotta manufacture the fuel out of Martian material to get us back to Earth.
Wow.
There's all kinds of technologies that we must develop which will further enhance the quality of life here. So if it costs us, if it costs us $1 trillion to go to Mars, we'll get $2 or $3 trillion back in these types of research.
That's awesome. And for the viewers, they know my son, he's 6, he wants to be an astronaut. In fact,
when I was 6, we didn't have them.
No.
We had the Robert Heinlein and Mission to Moon and all those kind of things, that sci-fi writers, which I couldn't get enough of. But he might be one of the guys that goes, because we think the first person on Mars is going to be 6 to 16 right there, or 8 to 18, somewhere in that area. Maybe some of these new guys may.
He's set on it. He is set on going to Mars. You actually signed a picture for him one time, and you put on there, "Study hard." And boy, does he study, and he studies math like, I mean.
If you got youngsters watching us today, that's the most important thing they can do, is to do well in school. That's the #1 criteria for success in any walk of life. No matter whether you want to be an astronaut or anything, you got to take advantage of at least these first 12 years we're giving you to sit in school and learn. If you don't take advantage of that, then you're going to be handicapped for the rest of your life. Because the better you do, the better opportunities you will have. So when your parents and teachers and grandparents like me are asking you to study, it's not because we don't like you, it's because we love you. And we want you to succeed. So dig in there and do as best you possibly can, at least in that first 12 years, and hopefully you'll go into college. And if you want to fly off into space, you've got to go to college, and these days you've got to even get your doctor's degree. I think maybe most or all of the 12 that we picked the other day have doctor's degrees, and whether they're pilots or not. It's just when you have, I thought they said they had 18,000 applicants that they picked those 12 from. We had about 80,000, I think, when I was went through that process back in the late 70s. So it's a tough road to hoe. But if you want to get there, you've got to do what everybody else. I tell kids to pick out a role model and emulate them. Do what you saw them do in school and college and military. Or every one of my classmates, there were 35 of us, 15 pilots. Not all of us had doctor's degrees, But the 20 mission specialists, I think, to a man and woman, had doctor's degrees in medicine or science or engineering. So when you got thousands and thousands of people to pick from, the first thing they do is go right to the top for education and they look at all the other attributes. So education is the number one thing, whether or not you want to be an astronaut, no matter what it is you want to do, you got to get a good education.
So if you see a 727 number calling you this afternoon, it's probably little Blake wanting to know exactly what his path needs to be. So we'll have little Blake call.
Well, we're all about science and technology, so the pathway to NASA, and I think for Japanese it will be JAXA, the Indian Space Agency, the Russian, the Europeans, or whatever. The road to success is education.
Okay. I love it. Excellent. Study hard. That was his tip that he wrote.
My mother wouldn't let me go outside and play in the afternoon until I did my homework.
Yeah.
So,
you hear that, kids? Parents, tell your kids. You might have a little astronaut in the making. Okay, very good. So transitioning here, and I want to make sure that we honor a couple of people here. So all those in flight of the Columbia in 2003 and the Challenger in '86. A lot of our viewers have dealt with loss of various kinds in their lives. You were sort of a part of these two losses. You were here.
I was particularly close to the Challenger crew, 4 members of my class, and I knew them very closely. Ellison Honeyzuck was a test pilot classmate of mine, and Judy Resnick and Dick Scobie and I shared offices together. Dick Scobie's wife was my son's 6th grade teacher, so it was like losing members of my family. And Challenger and I was scheduled to be the commander of the very next flight. So it was a horrible, horrible thing. And I think what we all of us have to learn from these tragedies and mistakes and errors and problems is don't repeat them. Try your best not to do that. If you're doing the same thing over and over and you're having failures, why are you doing it that way? So you got to learn from your problems and your mistakes and your trials and your errors, and hopefully don't make those mistakes again. I think we went through 2 terrible tragedies in the Space Shuttle program, but it's I go back to John Kennedy. I was lucky to meet John Kennedy when I was a senior in high school. Spent about 10 minutes with him and Jackie, just the 3 of us. It turned out to be the highlight of my whole life.
Except for
this
well, I mean this interview,
this
right?
morning.
Yeah.
But John Kennedy, just about a year after I met him, was elected president and said we're going to go to the moon. And I was already into rocketry. I was building rockets and airplanes when I was in high school before that. But when he did that, it kind of sparked, tweaked, heightened my interest in flying in space. I think with John Kennedy, it not only inspired a lot of Americans, it surely touched my life. And one of the things he also said is we're not doing this because it's easy. It's hard. And space exploration, you're living right on the edge. As you do it anyway, so that you can't afford to make mistakes. We learned that painfully in Challenger and in Columbia. Hopefully we rectify those problems, but there's always going to be a danger associated with leaving this planet and going out into the unknown.
Excellent. So one of the tips for viewers out there that I pulled from what he said is, look at your life and see some of the mistakes that you've made and the hiccups
And others
you've
have
had.
made. Don't repeat mistakes that other people use.
Yeah, and that other people have made, and work to step around those puddles instead of going through them. So use your past and
if you accidentally walk through a puddle, clean your feet off and try to avoid the next one.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love it. You don't have to regret, when it comes to your own life. You don't have to regret the things that you've done, but look at them as like learning lessons and adjust your sails and move forward. So thank you for those tips. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to lighten the air right now, and we are going to ask you a question that everyone wants to know that nobody is going to ask on Facebook in the chat, but they know that I'll ask it. How do you do a number 1 and a number 2 in space? How do we do it?
Well, one looks like this.
Are there does it float
Number
away?
1, pretty much since you don't have gravity to deal with up there, we use vacuum pressure.
Okay.
So number 1 is into a hose with a vacuum.
Okay. Girls, this doesn't sound easy for us.
And
Just
each
saying.
crew member has his or her adapter that you plug into the hose. You turn on the vacuum pressure. I don't have to really show you.
No, we don't need to actually use
But
that.
it takes the urine through the collection device into a urine collection tank.
Okay.
And when that gets full, we get a big red light. urine tank full, push the button, out into space. It's beautiful. As a matter of fact, I used to time my urine dumps to sunrise. Point the shuttle dump valve into the sun and hit the button. It looked like a diamond explosion. One of the most beautiful things you'll ever see in space. Number 2, we have a thing we call the waste management system. Well, actually, the urine collection device is attached to it, but you sit down on a seat. Since you don't have gravity and water flow, number 2 is kind of thrown away with vacuum pressure. When you sit on the seat, it kind of forms a vacuum, and you put thigh bars over the top of your legs to actually push you down on the seat.
Wow.
With the urine collection device in front. Once you're locked down, you got foot restraints you put in to keep you from floating off the seat. You got thigh bars.
Yeah, you don't want to float off the seat on a number 2. No.
You got your feet anchored, and then you pull thigh bars up and over your thighs and push you down on the seat. Hold you spring loaded. Once you're all lined up and ready to go, you just reach over and pull a little handle back. What do we call that? Silver apple. Little silver knob. You pull it back, and it turns on vacuum pressure.
There you go.
So solid waste goes down the transport tube. We call it into a centrifugal tank. It spins it out. We don't dump that in space.
No. So no little meteors are out in space.
No, we bring all it back to Earth. I tell people, can you imagine how embarrassing it would be if we dumped that in space and came back and landed, sent an empty crew up and they're flying around?
Oh.
Could mess up your whole mission. So we do bring all that back.
All right, folks,
Simple.
You have it. A number 1 and 2 in space, right here from this man. You know how to do it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make sure now that all of the viewers' questions are answered. So we're going to switch over. How are we doing? We're doing okay. We're doing all right. So got a list of them here. Aliens, just want to know. That's the first one. Yes, no.
I've never seen any.
Okay.
Never seen anything up there, or from here or there, looking that I couldn't explain.
No.
Nominally,
Okay.
naturally. So no, I have not seen them, but I'd be the last person to sit here and tell you I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
As we talked earlier, there are billions and billions of other solar systems with probably billions and billions of other Earths. To think that there couldn't be something going on out there somewhere where a group of people that live on that planet are talking about this one flying around their planet. Could be going on right now, not only here and there, but in hundreds of other places. Thousands, millions, who knows? This universe is unlimited. What are the bounds of the universe? Nobody can answer that question. The thing that's bugged me since I was 6 years old is, okay, so you get to the edge of the universe, what's on the other side? I can't, I'll just stop thinking about it.
Yeah, I wonder. Now I'm going to think about it. Darn it. Okay, so aliens, he has not seen any viewers, but he thinks it could be possible because we found, the universe is endless. Okay, this one, and maybe you would understand it better than me, pencil or space pen? What do you use? Pen or pencil?
Mostly pen.
Okay.
I think they were called Fisher pens, which you could write upside down. But
Cool. Fisher
I
pens.
think you could use either one.
Okay.
The problem with the pencil, if the lead breaks off and it's floating freely in the cabin, it could get in electronic gear or something like that. So
Things I would have never thought
I don't remember
about.
pencils, but I do with most people. If you have to write something, it'll be in a pen.
Okay, excellent. So most likely a pen. If you didn't catch that, if the pencil, if the tips break, they could be floating around.
If you had to sharpen it, where's all that stuff?
Yeah. Wow, great. Things I would never. Okay, what are your thoughts on changes in publicity of the space program over the last decade? I remember as a kid we watched every space shuttle launch. Now sometimes there's not even a mention. What do you think?
Well, that comes with the territory, once things become more and more customary, and people lose a little bit of their interest. But that doesn't mean that each and every one of these launches is not as dangerous as it was as the one that preceded it, and going back to Mercury. Anytime you put essentially a bomb on top of a launch pad and light it off and hope it goes that way and works, it's still dangerous.
Yeah.
We've learned that in the last couple of years here with a couple explosions right off the pad. So it's not ever going to be. Once you get to the point where you think there's no problems, that's when they happen.
Yeah.
So we've got to approach every launch, every mission, as if it were the first one, and make sure that and they do that pretty well. There's so many complicated factors about everything we do down here that You could make one small little mistake, or one guy or gal could miss one little something or other, and it could cause a catastrophe. So it's back to John Kennedy. We do it because it's hard, not because it's easy.
Yeah, I feel like for me, since I was, you know, so young, or so many people I know were so young during the first launch ever, like I'm gonna feel the way that those people felt when we launched to Mars. Like I'm gonna feel that. Holy cow.
Well, I'm sure if and when that happens, and it will, there's going to be a lot of people tuned into that and launching into that actually. It's going to take 1 or 2 years to get there with current propulsion systems. And that's something you youngsters could work on out there, future propulsion systems that'll get us in there. Right now it's going to take about a year with our chemical rockets, we call them. That's about as far as we can go as Mars with current propulsion systems. So we need plasma and ion and all those futuristic propulsion systems that we watched on Star Trek years ago. They got to come to reality before we can actually travel inside our solar system freely.
You hear that, youngsters? You got a lot of work cut out ahead of you here. Okay, next question. Do footprints remain on the moon forever?
I don't know about the forever part, because over billions of years there's going to be impacts and a little motion that might wash them away, but theoretically they'll be there for thousands of years, because there's nothing to move them, nothing to interfere with them. There's no atmosphere, there's no wind, we're looking at the same part of the moon all the time as it goes around us. There's no change. So it's kind of a stark little body out there orbiting around Earth.
So a long time. We don't know about forever, but a very long time.
Forever's a long time.
Yes. Is there a speed limit on the moon?
Nope.
No.
You can go as fast as you want. There's nobody to clock you.
Nice. That's where my husband will be headed after the show. Okay. What are your dreams like when you're in space?
I don't recall dreaming while I was in space. If I was dreaming, I was probably dreaming about the next day's mission or something like that. I'm not a big dreamer anyway, and I particularly don't remember any specific dreams in space.
Okay. All right. There you have it. I hear that our American flag loses its color while flying to the moon, while flying on the moon. Do we replace it with a new one? Is that statement even true?
It's like our first conversation about the moon. There's nothing really to interfere or really degrade that flag or degenerate it while it's sitting there on the moon. Other than the solar rays when it's in the sunlight, I guess that probably would affect it over time. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but the solar energy that hits the face of the moon where the flags are would probably have a wearing effect on the flags that are there. Any of the stuff that's left up there.
Okay, excellent.
Over time.
Excellent. And do you think we would change it out if we went up there and saw that it was completely
I doubt
faded?
it.
Okay.
There wouldn't be any reason to do that. We'd rather plan a new one
Okay.
for the new pioneers that just got there.
Okay, there you go. How does space travel impact your sleep cycle?
What we do to combat that is about 2 weeks before we launch, we get on the sleeping cycle in Houston that we're going to use in space.
Okay.
So no matter what, my crew slept in Houston hours from 7 at night till 3 in the morning. So 2 weeks before launch we started sleep, going to bed at 7 o'clock in Houston, waking up at 3 in the morning, and we would train from 3 to 7 every day for a couple of weeks. So when you got into space that very first day, even though you were seeing a sunrise and a sunset every hour and a half, your body clock was your circadian rhythm, we call it, set. So it was, other than the fact that the first night in space is your first night in space, and obviously
that's your first night in space.
Yeah, I wanted to do this all my life, so I think that first 8 hours where we were supposed to be sleeping, I was kind of peeking out the window. And then just enjoying the ambiance of being in space. So I don't think I slept much the first night, maybe not even the second, but after a couple of nights of not sleeping much and still working the 16 hours a day or so, with a couple of half-hour breaks for breakfast and lunch. It's a pretty intense schedule, so after about 3 of the days of that, I think the third night at least, when they said sleep time, it took me about long. And we wake up with an alarm. The ground calls you with music normally. I think most of the nights from then on out, I slept until the music.
What kind of music? What kind of music do they?
Country roads. They played that for me a couple more. John Denver was a great man and a good friend of mine. I was very fortunate in my life to spend a lot of time with him. being from West Virginia and country roads, it was a special friendship for him.
Wow, this is the guy to know, that's for sure. Okay, so the sleep cycle, he kind of prepped by being on ground a couple weeks before he went up. They changed his sleep cycle to sort of help a little bit with that. Do you get motion sickness in space from weightlessness? What is the impact of getting used to gravity again? So I guess the first one is, do you get motion sickness in space from weightlessness?
All of my time in airplanes and ships and stuff, it was pretty easy for me to adapt to it, but a lot of people have trouble the first day or two, I think.
What do? You take a Dramamine in space?
The best thing to do is don't eat a big breakfast when you launch, and you probably don't, you're not going to be hungry for the first day or two. Once you get in space for a day or so, the body adjusts to living in weightlessness, so it will learn how to process food normally. But don't force it. Don't drink a lot of fluid right before launch. I mean, get up there, and you don't need as much fluid for the first day or two because the body senses I've got way too much fluid to live in weightlessness. So most people go to the bathroom a whole lot for the first couple of days. I lost 8 pounds of body fluid. That's about 4 quarts of fluid. That's because you don't have the gravity pulling all the fluid down in your legs and your abdomen that we have here on Earth. So it all moves up, and the body said, get rid of this. So there's a whole lot of going to the bathroom and very little thirst for the first day or two until you get to the equilibrium point that's consistent with living in weightlessness.
Okay.
Conversely, when you come back to Earth, we force ourselves to try to get 2 liters or 2 quarts of fluid in your system after we've done our deorbit burn, because when we know when we start encountering gravity, and finally only up to 1 G in an hour, the body's going to say, whoa, it's all fluids pulled back into your legs, your lower abdomen, so for the first couple of days on Earth you can't get enough to drink as you replace that fluid that you lost.
Wow, that is so interesting. Awesome. Okay. What is your favorite memory of being in space? And then we're going to say, same question, what did he encounter that he did not expect to happen? So first question, what is your favorite memory of being in space?
I think, and that's obviously been asked before, and I think my favorite memory is my first vision of Earth from space, something I dreamed about all my life. And, I'm up front for 45 minutes looking at the instruments as we shut down and get ready for on-orbit activities. So I hadn't seen Earth, didn't even bother. Besides, it was behind me back here. We were in an attitude where Earth was buried behind us. And so after about 45 minutes, it's my job to move aft and open up the payload bay doors. So I did that. I was 45 minutes into the flight, and I set up all the computers in the aft part of the cockpit looking into the payload bay, and hit the button that opens the payload bay doors. And they got about a foot or 2 cracked open. God, that's Earth right there. I'm looking at Earth from space for the first time. And as they opened, I realized I'm over Australia. 45 minutes ago, I was in Florida. Now I'm on the other side of the Earth over Australia. When the doors open, we could see from Perth to Sydney. And the best part of the whole thing was, right there beside me, my arm around him, was the first Australian to fly in space.
Oh, wow.
And you put those 2 things together, I really thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest at my first view of Earth from space. This thing I've been dreaming about all my life was happening.
Right now.
And right now I've got the first guy in space from that country right there. So it was really an awesome thing.
Wow, that is awesome. What did you encounter that you did not expect to happen?
Boy, I can't think of anything that jumps right out there because our training is so intense and so thorough during the first 2 years, and plus all the training for that specific flight, plus talking to everybody that had been there. The only thing that surprised me was on launch. I forgot about that. 2 minutes into the flight, we get a countdown on our computer. TV screen says stand by for solid rocket booster separation. That happens at 2 minutes 11 seconds. So we're counting down 5, 4, 3, 2. I've experienced it in the simulator 100 times. And kaboom! Boy, it really shakes the cockpit.
I did your little thing here that you've got.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'm shaking, and I'm like.
But what happened then was that all of a sudden the windscreen got totally black, and I couldn't see. I was looking at the blue sky, and all of a sudden, I can't see anything. And I look at Bob Crippen. commander, his 4th flight. I looked at him and said, Bob, what the heck just happened?
Are we in Earth or are we still
He
here?
smiled. He was looking at me, he was smiling. He said, it happens every time. And in about 5 or 6 seconds, the speed of the wind clears off the wind. It was an explosive charge. The residue of the pyrotechnic devices exploded that covered the screen. And in about 5 or 10 seconds, with the remaking the airstream, it cleared it all off, and I'm looking at blue sky again. But for about 10 seconds, my heart went about like this. I looked at him, he's smiling at me. So I made sure that every pilot that flew a space shuttle flight after me knew what happened to that.
That's the one secret they don't share. There's one thing.
And I shared it with everybody. That was enough. That was well, we talked about being scared. That was the only time, that 10 seconds, that I was ever fearful.
Okay. Now we know. Now we know. Okay, good. Okay, so what do you eat in space? Are there any foods you definitely cannot eat?
You can pretty much get anything you want. We have a menu in Houston where you can go in the kitchen and sit down and taste everything and order what you want for every breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they freeze dry it or thermally stabilize it, and they pack all 7 lunches or dinners or breakfasts in one box. Very efficient. When it's time to prepare your meal, whoever's preparing it pulls it out, takes all the meals out. Everybody has a color code on their fruit or their bags or whatever. Mine was yellow. Bob's was red. Sally's was green. So every food container in that box had a green dot or a yellow dot or a red dot. So whoever's preparing the meal would add water if it needed to be reconstituted or heated in the oven, and a piece of Velcro on the bag to put on everybody's trays with a red dot, green dot, blue dot. And the food is very good. You know, they've even by the time we were first bunch to fly shuttles, but by the time we all were flying, they had really perfected the food preparation technology. She used to, where a freeze-dried meal tasted almost as good as one in a restaurant.
Okay.
And you can get, my favorite meal is a filet mignon, strawberry.
I was going to ask you, can you get filet? I'm thinking no,
it's already
but clearly.
pre-cooked to medium rare. In a bag, in a pouch, vacuum packed, and you can put it in the oven and heat it up and open the bag.
There you go.
My green beans.
If you let it go, will it float away?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Food trays have Velcro, and the package has Velcro, so you just put it on your food tray. All the drinks were freeze-dried. We had 30 different types of fruit juice and milk, and tea and coffee. I like green beans and mashed potatoes, which would be freeze-dried, and they look pretty good, but you injected a needle in water and reconstitute it, mix them up, put them in the oven for a little bit. First couple, 3 days, we had some oranges and apples and bananas. And we took a loaf of bread, which a lot of the early flights did, but we found out that that's problematic, because the crumbs from bread just gets everywhere. So every flight, since about the 10th or 12th, they're taking tortillas. Tortillas are the bread stuff in space.
So little Blake is going to want peanut butter and jelly. That's his favorite. Can we make that happen?
Easily doable.
Okay, good. Okay, good to know. Okay, so stay away from bread, but you can pretty much eat anything in space for the most part. Okay, did you miss your family? How often did you talk to them?
We didn't have the capability to talk to families when I was flying. It was early in the program, but right now people up there have email and cell phones and.
Can they Facebook Live from space?
I think so. Yeah.
So we could do the show.
I think so.
From there.
Yeah. There you go. As a matter of fact, when I flew shuttles, we can only talk to the ground about 20 minutes of every 90-minute orbit because we have to go through a ground station. Now they've got the tracking the data relay satellites where you're never out of contact visually or, audio visually. So it was a rare case. We had emergency. If there were an emergency in your family or something, then they could come out to the control center and get in a special little booth where theoretically we could put on little earphones and we could talk privately while we were over a ground station. But I don't recall that ever happening.
Which is a good thing, kind of, because only
the kids did we miss each other? No, because everybody in my family and all of the family were so excited that finally he's going to get to go do this. So they could go to the control center and they were tuned. NASA, I think, put a radio monitor at the house where they could listen to the conversations and stuff like that. So it was more of joy than missing each other.
Nice.
And
okay.
Happy to get me up there and happy to get me home.
Excellent. So
one of the unique parts about living in my kids. People say, well, did your kids run around saying, my dad's an astronaut, my mom's an astronaut? Well, no, because everybody's dad and mom were astronauts. We all kind of lived in this. And Johnson Space Center is way outside of town in a kind of remote area, so all the kids grew up together, went to school together. So.
Well, I bragged about him all day. I'm interviewing an astronaut. I'm interviewing an astronaut all over social media. So, okay, excellent. So, family was overjoyed that you got to live out this dream.
Finally.
And finally, okay. Do you really grow in space? Ouch.
You don't call it growing. You expand, I guess, or you get taller, and it's a temporary thing. When you get into space. When I stand up here in the room, there's gravity collapsing my spinal column and my ankle and my knee. They're keeping me compressed. Gravity, holding me together.
Yep.
When I get into weightlessness, what happens? There's nothing else to keep. So the spinal column, my knee, my ankle, all these little bones separate because there's no pressure on them. So I got about 2 inches taller.
Mm-hmm.
Went from 6'2" to 6'4". In about
That's
a
the place
day.
I need
It's a
to
slow
go.
process. And the bones don't mind that so much, but your muscles really, everybody gets a small backache because when you stretch your back or 1 or 2 inches, and it doesn't really want to do it. It's very painful, but it's great therapy. They've kind of emulated here on Earth by giving people stirrup therapy where they hang them upside down in boots and stretch their spine. It's the same thing we get. It's a nice gentle decompression. It really helped. I'm an old fighter pilot back, I was wake up in the morning and have to really work it out. And in space, that nice gentle decompression and 9 days of uncompression, and then nice gentle recompression really did great spinal therapy. It really straightened out my back, and I think most people would agree to that.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
But you do go back to your normal size every day or so back on it.
So I'll have to put my heels back on when I land. All right, whatever. Do you have to have a higher water intake in space than down here?
No,
Well,
it's the
it seems
same, just you don't drink the first day or two until you get rid of all, and you have normal thirst.
Okay.
Back on Earth, you can't get enough to drink for the first 2 days, as you refill your body, and after that it's back to normal.
Okay, all right, there's
A
your
couple
answer.
days up and a couple days back.
Okay. And this was Little Blakey's question. He actually had the first question before anyone had posted questions. Little Blake wants to know, can a black hole suck in the sun?
Can a black hole get stuck in the sun?
Suck in the sun.
It could if we're close enough to it. Thankfully, I don't think we're anywhere near a black hole right now.
Okay. I'll let him
Yeah.
know. Excellent. Close call today, guys.
The
Okay.
good part is, I think with all the instruments and stuff we have, we're going to see this happening before it really happens. Not that we can do anything about it.
Oof. Don't tell me if that happens.
Oh, it's
Don't let me know.
right now, I'm probably light years away now.
Okay. Good. All right. We're safe today, guys. Okay. What do you find is the best thing about being an astronaut, and why?
To me personally, I think the best thing is what we're doing right now. Having the opportunity to relate all these experiences with folks, and particularly encourage the youngsters to maybe follow my footsteps. That's the best part of it to me.
Okay, excellent. What about mentors? One of the things I noticed on the Dr. Jaime show is every guest I've had, whether I've asked this question or not, has somehow along the way said, oh, my mentor this, or my role model this. Do you have any mentors, and do you think that people should have role models or mentors?
Well, I certainly do. And my early role models were my family members. My dad, my grandfather, my brother, older brother were kind of my role models. And lucky enough to have a close-knit family and community and school, and that really took care of me, protected me, encouraged me, nurtured me. Those are my kind of role models. I particularly like John Kennedy and what he said and did. The fact that I got to meet him personally and spend time with him was a highlight of my life.
Excellent. And do you think it's important for people, no matter how old they are, whether they're youngsters viewing or people 30, 40, 50, 60, to have role models? Or
Oh, definitely. If you want to be a medical doctor or an astronaut, pick out a medical doctor or an astronaut or an actor or a scientist and look at what he or she did in their career path and early years, and why not kind of do the same thing? It worked for them.
It worked, right?
Might work for you.
Okay, excellent, excellent, very good. All right, so what is something that you personally want to see happen in space exploration?
I would like to see us go to Mars during my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see that happen.
Okay.
We should have been there by now.
Mm-hmm. No, not Blake.
We
We're
had
disappointed.
people don't real. We had a Lunar Mars initiative by President Bush back in 2004. We were going to be, I think, the ultimate goal is to be on Mars by 2020 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're 3 years away from that. And we haven't even gotten back to the moon yet. So it's not that we can't afford it. It's we don't have the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, we don't have them in the right order.
What year do you think we'll be there? If you had to guess.
We have to make the commitment. That's going to take 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
We haven't made the commitment yet.
Okay. All right. Okay, are there any new space events, research, etc. happening in space right now that you can tell us about?
In space right now?
Yeah.
Well, all the good stuff is happening on Space Station, which has been up there. We started building it in 1998. It became fully operational, I think, in 2008. So it's 10 years into its full-scale operational capability, and I think it's got 10 more years to go, we hope. So that's really the hub of space activity and experimentation right now is the International Space Station. They're doing some good things.
Are they doing something, correct me if I'm wrong, with like, we're trying to work to grow food so that when we do go to Mars and...
Yeah, we're growing food, we're reprocessing all the human waste is being reprocessed back into the system. We're learning all these techniques and developing the technologies that we use to go to Mars.
Nice, excellent, okay. For children who want to become an astronaut someday, what advice would you give them? Studying, role models?
We've talked about it all.
Yes, okay.
Study, study, study. I was just in Japan last week and I talked to a lot of kids. Binkyo, binkyo, binkyo. That's study, study, study in Japanese. So that's the most important thing you can do.
Excellent.
Is study, listen to the people who've been there, particularly your parents and their teachers and your counselors and your grandparents who really want you to succeed. And do the right thing. You know, you'll learn what the right thing is. You know when you're doing something that's not supposed to be done. Try not to do those. Pick out that role model and emulate what he or she did in their life and just go make it happen. I preach that you can go as high and as fast and as far as you want to go. You're the only person that can limit that. You can blame it on anybody you want to, but you're the one in charge.
I love that, and some things that I teach students is think about your future self. Don't always, we're such a society of immediate gratification and living right this second.
Good things take a while.
Yeah, they
It took me, from the time I met John Kennedy in 1960 till I was selected in that astronaut class, was 18 years. So we just got to keep working at it. Have fun. I tell people, youngsters, pick something you want to do, something that makes you happy. Don't try to force yourself to do something that doesn't work. If it's not working, it's all right. Go do something you like.
Yeah.
Life is only a one-time shot, so don't mess it up by forcing yourself to do something you don't enjoy doing.
I absolutely agree with that. Sometimes we feel that society pushes us a certain way to do something, or we pick a job because we think it's going to make a ton of money. Go with what interests you and what's going to excite you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so just the last two questions here. One is, where can we follow you? So Astronaut McBride on Twitter, and tell us a little bit, is there any other place that we can follow you or learn more about you?
I think my son does a lot of Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that.
Okay, your son.
Yeah, John too.
John too. Okay, so Astro McBride on Twitter, Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex on Facebook. There is, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I heard there's a program in the summer where kids going into 5th grade can get like a free ticket. Can you tell us?
It's a great thing. We just started, announced it last week, Summer of Mars here at the Kennedy Space Center, and all summer long, I think through September. Any 4th grader going into the 5th grade, bring your report card or your birth certificate, and you're allowed to come in free.
I love that.
Anywhere from anywhere in the world, not just here in America, anywhere in the world. If you're interested in coming and seeing the Space Center this summer, this is the Summer of Mars, and this is the time to do it. We've got a lot of activity here around Mars. We've got a Martian rover that we've developed that will be on display here and traveling around the country. And we're going to dedicate this summer to Mars. We're opening a Mars adventure where you can pay a little bit extra price and come and spend a day studying Mars, preparing for Mars, getting in your Mars equipment, flying to Mars, get out, explore Mars, get back, and come back to Earth.
Oh, we're doing it. I'm doing it.
It's a whole day's experience. So there's going to be a lot of things here each and every, I won't say every day, but this place called Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex is growing and increasing its capability each and every day. It gets bigger and better. It takes you, you can't see it in one day anymore. It's going to take you 2 days to see it and experience it.
That is awesome. That is wonderful. Okay, so the last thing is, what would you, if you could in 1 to 2 sentences, leave the viewers with one last piece of advice, what would you say to them today?
I'll address it to the youngsters, and the best thing I can say is that if you listen to this thing at all today, set your goals right now. I don't care how old you are. Start thinking about it, start studying toward it, and go make it happen.
I love that. Jon, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you
your
so
time
much.
and being
Good to be
here.
with you.
Everyone on Facebook Live, I hope you enjoyed this interview. So exciting to be here with Jon Mcbride, former astronaut with NASA. Next week on the Dr. Jaime Show, so next Friday, we are going to have Abigail on the show, and we are going to talk all things nutrition and getting all healthy and good looking for the summer. She is a registered dietitian. We are going to have some fun. Jon, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
All right, Facebook, have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hit finish on that.